Thank you for tuning in into Asnah Roundtable discussion. Asnah Roundtable discussion is all about educating and empowering the community. We are changing lives every day. Today, the topic that we'll be discussing is the impact of COVID-19 on education in America. My name is Essie Jennings, and I have two ladies here who are going to join me in the discussion.
My name is Rebecca Brickley. I'm a teacher at Temple Baptist School. I have a master's in music and education.
My name is Ekuya Mafo, and I have a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. I am an educator here at Asnah School of Nursing and Allied Health, and I am also a registered nurse at Innova Mount Vernon Hospital.
And today we are here to talk about the impact of COVID on education. Before we start, as always, do me a favor. Share, subscribe to our page, Asnah TV, and drop your comments in the comment section. We are here to educate you, empower you, and we are changing lives every day. Welcome to Asnah Roundtable discussion. So let's talk, ladies. Let's talk about the general impact of COVID on education. I know that COVID has come to stay, and it has had so much impact on us, both positively and negatively. It has affected our lives, and till today, it's still affecting our lives. So let's just talk about the impacts that we've seen on education at this time. Rebecca, why don't we start with you?
So I would say one of the biggest things working with elementary and high school students is that we've seen a lot of changes in children's mental health, obviously their academic achievements, and a lot of their socialization skills, because with all the fluctuations of virtual learning and no school and in-person school, and when you're in person you have masks and social distancing, and it's just shown it's affected a lot of the development of the children, because a lot of things that we as teachers have gotten used to. This is how we teach children. We've had to adjust. Well, let's adjust how we do it. We can't interact with them in the same way. We're learning to interact with children through computers and limited touch. You can't high five and hug students and interact with them in that way. And I've just seen a lot of adjustments that have had to be made that have caused everyone to rethink how they teach and still try to bring quality education while adhering to all the safety measures of preventing the
It's
spread.
hard.
Yes.
It's been difficult.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I really like what you just spoke about, but also with COVID, we realized that we had one system of education, brick and mortar, where people will physically go to school, everything was tactile, everything, and then suddenly it had to switch to virtual, where there was no physical connection. And so students who did better with one-on-one physical touch, students who were tactile, were almost deprived. And so for that reason, you realize that, yes, it affected the academic achievements. And you realize that parents will be like, oh, my child cannot just sit down and follow instructions from a computer. And it was because that is not how the child was used to. Not only that, that is not a learning style for that particular child. So you realize that people who are tactile, people who need the sense of touch to be able to learn, were deprived, and that has tremendously affected their academic achievements. So it was very, and it's still ongoing. And not only that, before virtual, especially when you go to higher education, like in after high school, secondary education, and tertiary education. Before, when people spoke about online education, it was almost second to brick and mortar education. Let's say you have a master's from a particular school that was an online education. They were like, oh, maybe you went online because you didn't have access to a brick and mortar. But fast forward, now we've realized that those schools who were doing online education had something going. They had the online system down to pack, to the point where they were more efficient in online education than those schools who are traditional brick and mortar. So there's a lot of dynamics that went into this pandemic and education in general.
Now, you can also say that, like you said, it's brought some good changes too, because at the end of the day, we see that virtual learning and in-classroom learning can bridge in a way to bring positive outcomes. I know that, for example, like nursing school or health education schools like Asnah, we had to bridge in virtual learning into the traditional model. Of course, we didn't have a choice, so we all had to go into isolation and then just do virtual learning. Now, when it came to clinicals and things like that, we couldn't go visually, we couldn't go physically out to clinical sites to do some clinicals. So we had to now learn how to do virtual clinicals. And there were softwares that were already there previously that we were not taking advantage of. So when this came about, we had to do it that way so that our students would be able to have clinical experience some way other than physical touch. Though it has its negative its negative impact. But at the end of the day, we had something, to do instead of just not being able to go out there, but then we were inside at least doing something. Yeah. So that was a thing too. Another thing, have you seen that now? Do you see any? I'll ask you, Rebecca. Any impact on visual, as in screen time? Are you seeing that in the kids?
One thing I found is I feel like a lot of children, because we had to go virtual, they were using a lot of screens, and then parents had to work from home. They couldn't send their children to school so that they could work, and so they needed to occupy the children after school, and oftentimes that was also with an iPad or the TV. And so I've seen a lot of children have gotten used to a lot of virtual, which has had health impacts, headaches and eye problems, and then they just, with the virtual all the time, they're not getting used to they're used to things being fed to them. It's so passive. They used to sit in front of the screen, something's going to be shown to me, and then they kind of lose their creativity, they lose their ability to go out and do things physically because they're just being fed the screen, and it's not the most ideal situation. Screen time is not encouraged for children.
Exactly.
Right. And then we had to go to screen time because we had to do virtual learning. So now children are staring at the screen all day. Their parents need them occupied while they're working, so they sit at their screens after they finish their schoolwork. And it's just caused a lot of attention issues, and they just don't have that natural creative drive as much as they used to.
Have you seen more wearing glasses and all that?
I've seen several students. I think many came in this school year, when we were able to come back in person with glasses that didn't have them before, and at younger and younger ages. I've seen second graders this year with glasses. There's some kindergarten students that were being considered for glasses. Their parents have told me. So I think the screen time has done a lot with the constant
staring at the
screen.
Wow.
She, Miss Rebecca also mentioned attention issues. And it's because children were being fed with information. And it's hard to get feedback from children through virtual education. How do you tell a child to wink or smile or clap to a particular tune in virtual education? Meanwhile, if it was like a physical class, the whole class can clap to a particular tune just to get the synchronization and the rhythm, right? However, you're telling a 5-year-old, right, to do certain things through the computer. So it brought a lot of attention deficits as a result of virtual education. And so, yes, and also parents who had no education background, right? Parents who don't necessarily educate their children at home were being forced to spearhead education at home. So it wasn't effective to some extent. Granted, yes, the two can be merged, but telling a parent who doesn't have any education background to educate their child from home with a computer, it definitely brought a lot of challenges. Yeah.
I would also add that I remember that during that time frame, we had our adult students at home, and they had their children at home as students too. So these adult learners were teaching these younger students. So the mother was a student, the child was a student. At that point, we saw lots of gap in our education, in the adult education, just because the mothers had no time to concentrate on their learning. So for that reason, we are seeing a result of that now. From what we taught then, and they were so busy with family time and teaching their kids, they didn't grasp the material. So now we're seeing a gap in that right now, and it is a problem.
Yeah. And even with computer literacy, before, when they physically come to school, most of these things, most of their exams and everything was physical. But now you're telling someone who is a computer illiterate to do virtual education. That alone heightens anxiety. So the parents themselves had some anxiety issues going on. How am I going to help my child who is 6 years old, who doesn't know how to use a computer, to navigate this virtual education with no computer literacy? So that also compounded the anxiety that came with it. And so children are having anxiety, parents are having anxiety, everyone is just burdened, and yes, because it's very, very difficult. And financially, I mean, laptops are not cheap, computers are not cheap. So within a blink, within a twinkle of an eye, every family member needs to have a computer. And siblings like, no, I want the one in the corner. I want the one. So it created a lot of friction at home. Especially if you live in a very small environment where you have 3 kids. Where are you even going to station these 3 children in the noise to have effective education?
I remember I split my children in 3 different levels. One upstairs, one middle, one, because they had to talk, respond, answer questions back and forth to the teachers. And I was also teaching my students as adult educator. And all the noise and tangle, my middle child just could not concentrate.
Right.
And she would say, Mom, I just feel like going through this window and just going outside because it's just too much around here. So eventually I had to put everybody on different levels. And even that, it wasn't still a good, it wasn't a good fit. So all these issues, I feel that now is the time that we're going to see the impact. We are seeing it now. Now, Rebecca, have you seen socially any issues with the kids, their socialization skills and all that?
Being a lot of children, especially the younger, it's the preschool and kindergarten children this year, their early years were basically spent at home with mom and dad. They weren't used to interacting with other people. They weren't used to interacting with other children. And at the beginning of the school year, many of them came in like, I have to sit down and listen to you at the front, but you're kind of boring. Can I change the channel and talk to this person over here? Like I noticed children just didn't understand the concept of when another person speaks, you're silent because, Zoom, you just mute yourself and keep doing what you got to do.
Go under the table,
And so they were all this virtual that they were used to. I'll just mute myself, turn my video off, and I can do what I want to do, even though there's something going on. And then coming and interacting with others, we noticed that they struggled with the concept of, oh wait, I can't just keep talking to my friend while the teacher is trying to explain a concept. And we've had to teach a lot of the children these skills of, we notice other people around us, we're kind to them, we're courteous to them, and they just didn't need those skills being at home on the computer. And so we've had to teach a lot of things we assume children would develop, but they just didn't have the opportunity.
That's a great point. We'll be right back.
America's School of Nursing and Allied Health. Are you looking for a reputable nursing school that will equip you for the future? Asnah is the answer. At Asnah, some of the programs we offer include practical nursing, phlebotomy, nurse aid, medication aid, and home health aid. We also offer CPR classes. We have an ultra-modern library that helps make learning fun, a state-of-the-art simulation lab for all of our courses, and a well-equipped studio to help reach the community. We have well-trained and dedicated instructors who are here to ensure your success. Here are some pictures of our past graduation ceremonies. We believe, we inspire, and we create. This is our mission statement. Asnah has the right atmosphere to help you attain your goals. Asnah, we will help you follow your dream. For more information, please visit our website at asnahonline.com or call 703-490-8402.
Welcome back to Asnah Roundtable discussion. We are talking about the impact of COVID on education in America. I have here Rebecca Finley and Ikuya Marfu. So we stopped at the socialization skills of children. Now let's discuss the gaps that we've seen in missed school time and the impact that we are seeing at this time. Because that, staying virtual, not having physical contact with school and all that did something to these kids. So let's kind of look at that a bit. Rebecca.
I would say with the gaps, we were fortunate at our school that we were able to kind of do a quick change and try to just keep pushing through with our education the best we could. But I see many children that are coming in this year that they're 1 or 2 grade levels behind their normal level for their age. So they come in applying for 4th grade and they do the entrance exams and they're on either 2nd or 3rd grade level. And it's kind of frustrating because the children want to feel like they're progressing forward, but on the other hand, they've missed so much education because especially we were talking earlier about different learning styles. Some children really struggle to learn over a computer screen. They need the teacher to come and one-on-one talk to them, show them some tactile things. They may not have had resources like that at home, so they just fell behind and there was nothing that they could do about it. So we've seen children repeating grades and trying to catch up, extra tutoring, and just a lot of pressure to try to get back on track when it's not anyone's fault. We just have to try to make up that difference the best we can.
Keep it up. Keep up the pace.
Yes.
Also with higher education, some people, when they signed up for school, they realize that they're not tech savvy. So they are signing in to go into a brick and mortar school where they will be physically present. And then COVID hits and they are forced to go into virtual education. Those people who were not tech savvy, they couldn't navigate the virtual system. And so it watered down the quality of education that they would have otherwise received. And so for that reason, I believe that the quality of education that was rendered during the period was kind of watered down to some extent. Because as you were saying, some people, you would have to walk up to them and say that I was talking about this particular area of the heart, physically have them touch the heart, the model, have them run their hands through where the blood supply goes and all of that. That is how it clicked for them. And so educators knew the different styles and from education over a period of time, within the first day or two of meeting students, you'll be able to handpick and tell this person is tactile, this person is visual, this person is auditory. And so you focus your education skills on those different areas. But virtual didn't give you the freedom to do all of that. And so those who suffered the most were those who didn't, one, have the ability to navigate the computer systems, and also had very challenging learning styles. And so it really made them struggle through those year and a half where everything was virtual.
Wow, yes, it's very true, because we are seeing that right now at our school, at American School of Nursing and Allied Health right now, that you can see the impact, like I said before, on that students who quickly had to switch, didn't know what to do, had to do it anyway, and now it's really affecting them and impacting them. We are, like you said, Rebecca, we are trying to catch up or fill in the gaps or make it possible for them. That's all we can do at this time, and we hope to make a difference.
Right.
We hope to make a difference. I'd like us to also discuss the impact of COVID on education amongst the diasporans and the minorities. Do you think it had impact on us?
Absolutely, absolutely. When we talk about diasporans, when we talk about minority, when we talk about socioeconomic reasons, most of minorities, diasporans are essential workers. And so if you're telling an essential worker to stay at home and help their children navigate virtual system, it's impossible. They physically have to be at work, and their children have to do virtual education. So you would realize that children in the diasporian homes may have been shortchanged when it comes to virtual education, because the parents were not physically present to help them navigate the system. Also, socioeconomic reasons. Financially, they don't have, some people may not have 3-4 computers to go around. Granted, there are certain counties where they were given free laptops or computers for the students. However, these are children. You're renting a computer to a home where finances are tight. When they break these computers, you are charging the families to fix it or pay for it. So it's financially daunting for these families to be able to afford the computers. And I remember previously we were talking about having 3 kids in the same room learning virtually and forcing them to give feedback. They're being, distracted in different areas, different directions, because my brother's teacher is talking about music. I like music, so I want to be part of music. But my sister's teacher is talking about science and talking about volcanoes. And so when you ask them, what did you learn in school? They're doing physical education in front of a computer. Right. How are you going to tell a child to do push-ups in front of a computer? Maybe they have to tilt their camera this way, So it's, it came with a lot of challenges. And I'm hoping that, granted, this is water under the bridge, but we have to do like a retrospect. We have to look back and see which areas that we need to hone in to help these children develop.
Rebecca, anything else you want to add to what?
I would add also, like you were saying, the computers. Yes, many children got free computers, but then that doesn't count for internet access.
Exactly.
Because some people, they just have, the data plan on their phone. They don't necessarily have a hookup for computers, and so they were trying to hotwire into their phones, and now the children's connections are spotty. You can't learn if the teacher's going on in and out of the screen. And so just also you think of things like libraries were closed down. A lot of people rely on library systems to get their internet access, to get their, to be able to access things that they couldn't access. And so those are shut down. And now many people just felt kind of left in a lurch. Like, what can I do? I wanted to help my child. Because we had families at school, you're talking about the essential workers. They said, we can't stay home with our children. And they were left trying to see, well, Grandma, can you come over this day? And we know.
And Grandma doesn't know how to use computers.
Grandma doesn't know the on button on the computer.
And so it was just, everyone did the best we could with what we could, but still, there's just some things about virtual learning that were pros, but that were also just having the option to be able to be in person. It's just, there are just some things that can't be replaced by computers. And
So in a nutshell, you could tell that it really impacted the minority and the diasporans, because many of these things that you're saying was, we felt it as, as a people and as a body, and it wasn't so easy, but we navigated through. Now, what would you like to see in the future? Or what would we like to see changed or kept with this whole education and COVID? What is good about it, basically? And what would you want to see in the future?
I would say one of the things that I felt was, as a result of it, was learning to be flexible and creative, because we had to work with limited resources, and I know as teachers we just had to learn how to do new technologies and new things that we never would have thought to learn about before. And so we added in some implementations that we still use, even though we don't necessarily have to use virtually. Like, we were able to be creative and say, well, here's a new way we can present this material, and it kind of expanded our horizons. And one thing I could say for virtual learning that is helpful is that we have the option set up now.
Exactly.
So when we have students that are too sick to come to school, but they're not too sick to do something at home, they can Zoom in and join us and watch the class from home, and they aren't getting sicker or strangers. They're still able to keep up. They don't have to try to do all the makeup work. They have that option to have their virtual lesson at home. So that was something that came out of learning virtually that we could add. And just learning how to be flexible, because sometimes it's easy as a teacher to say, this is how I've always done it, this is how it's worked, and I don't need to change. And this kind of forced us all to say, change isn't always the worst thing in the world. We can learn new ways, and we can find ways to implement new ideas and methods that we wouldn't have otherwise thought to use.
I like that. Yes.
Yes, so much. And looking back, I think that yes, brick and mortar and virtual education need to come together, right? And you may have children, adults who may be going through very challenging situations in their lives. Some may be diagnosed with severe, health, medical problems. And so, yes, they could join in virtually. And that option is very, very important. But in view of that, the education that needs to happen before virtual learning needs to be tightened up. What I mean by that is, does your computer work? What resources do you have at home? If this does not work, you call this number. So all the resources are put in place so that it will be almost seamless, and so that there wouldn't be any lack of information, lack of education during virtual education. In the grand scheme of things, it has forced everyone to do their best given the limited resources that we have. And I strongly believe that virtual education has come to stay. And so everyone needs to almost change their lives just so that we will embrace this new normal that we've come across.
I also feel that it's a great thing that now we have learned to bridge the gap. Things that we didn't always know is now we know. And we know that instead of always being a teacher's turn, this is how I do it. Now we can get out of our shells and try new things. Now we are embracing new ways of doing so many new things, which before we were not. Especially, I'll speak up for nursing. We've been very traditional in our set ways. It's this way or that way, and we have to do it this way. But now we have learned innovative new ways to incorporate all these things, and it's great. What I like to see is more research in all these areas that we're talking about, to see so we can actually zoom into particular areas that we are having trouble with in education. Because like we're saying that now all the kids are wearing glasses. There's no research to back it up or to support it. We're saying that adults had to quickly go back and learn virtual. There's not much research. Before we came to this production, I was looking to see if I would get some numbers and statistics and things like that to really back what we have to do, but there wasn't much. So I'd like to see more research and more areas, covering all this, so that the work can be focused on all these loopholes to be done. That's what I like to see.
You know how in nursing we say evidence-based practice, evidence-based practice, and so just so that it will guide the new normal that we've had. That this is the facts that we have. We have X amount of students wearing glasses as a result of this. What are we putting in place? Are we putting screen protectors in place? So yes, I really, really like the fact that yes, evidence-based practice is the way forward.
That's right. Yeah. Anything else that you would like to add?
I would just say that a big thing with education is that teachers often have to work with so many different children in so many different so many environments, and they have to bring it all together into one class and say, how can I reach the needs of all these students? And I could say that with the COVID thing, I feel that it helped open teachers' eyes even more, because we got to see into children's homes, literally. We saw their screen. We weren't relying on what they told us was happening at home. We got to see some of their background happening in their home behind them as we were teaching. And I feel that that's helped even me as a teacher be more sympathetic towards children who are struggling.
Oh, understand them more.
I'm saying, oh, if this is what you're dealing with at home, like this is what you're coming from when you come to school. And so it's helped me to be personally to be more compassionate and understanding of each student as we're teaching them. And I think that's also a big thing moving forward in education, that we can develop don't just have this is how you behave in my class, why are you behaving that way? It's like, let's have some, look deeper and have some more compassion about they're coming from a home where maybe they didn't have breakfast and they're hungry. And so they're trying to keep up, but they're just too hungry. Or, maybe there was a fight at home, or somebody just passed away in the family and they're coming to school. They wouldn't necessarily tell you all these things, but to be able to look deeper and see all of us coming through this COVID thing, we all have suffered in some way. Everybody's had to suffer with their mental health. Everybody's had to suffer with new restrictions and guidelines, and children are no exception, and students have to deal with those too. And I feel that with all this, it's kind of showed us to be more compassionate towards others. And
you are about to open another chapter. Yes. That if we want to really zoom into that, we've got to talk some more. And I like that last point, that we've now understood our students, the people that we work with, because now we were into their homes and we really understand them. So I would like to wrap this up. Any last words before we leave? All right.
So I think we've said it all, and yes, we have seen homes, and at least I like the compassion aspect of it, that we were more empathetic or more sympathetic to everyone that we come across, because you don't know what they're going through.
Thank you, ladies, very much for being here today and sharing your thoughts on the impact of COVID on education. It's been a very productive discussion. Thank you, viewers, for tuning in. This is Asnah Roundtable discussion. We are always here to educate you and to empower you. We are changing lives every day. Please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Asnah TV, share, like, and drop your comments in the comment section. And tell us what you'd like to hear more of. And we will be here to educate or discuss it with you. Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.